What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, and this is my poker vlog. I found some extra footage from the last session that I think you guys would like. We're gonna do a bonus vlog, but before that, let's check up on my update. I just went to LA for the World Series of Poker Circuit main event. Well, I just got knocked out in 38th place. Okay, now let's get to the cash game session. Alright, let's get started. This hand has a $20 under the gun straddle and 2 callers. I did just get back from LA, played the main event of the World Series of Poker in LA. Min cashed that tournament, got 38th place out of 400, and I'm back home and ready to play some more cash games this weekend. So we have 2 callers of the straddle, 3 players going to the flop. Although this was a limp pot, if I had raised in this hand, I would definitely c-bet this flop with whatever I had raised with. And in a limp pot, I think you can bet all your pairs, your pocket pairs, you can bet all your hearts, and you can bet some hands like Queen Jack, Jack 10 on this board, especially if you have spades, aside from all of our 2 heart hands. Under the gun bets 55 and gets called by the hijack. We go to the turn, which is a 10 of spades. So now some of those potential overs that could have been drawn to hearts now have a straight draw. And anybody that had something like Queen Jack of spades now has an open-ended straight flush draw. So under the gun bets 100. I would expect that if hijack has any hearts, of course any 9, and any 2 overcards that now have turned a straight draw, he's probably going to go with this hand. He's fairly short, and you see he goes all in for $255. Surely the undergun is going to call, and he does. Go to the river, which is a 7. This does improve some of the straight draw hands into a straight. The hijack shows pocket 5s, and the undergun shows pocket 6s. Holy cow. These 2 guys were definitely playing poker, and I guess each one thought the other one was on a draw. It ended up being a battle of 2 pocket pairs. In this hand, we're actually going to play the hand of the button. The button has pocket 8s, and he raises to 115 over the $40 straddle. I like this play. I tend to make my raises a little bit bigger. I'd start with 120 and go higher from there, but 115 is about the same. The button gets heads up against the middle position player who was the $40 straddle preflop. The button flops a set of 8s. Great start. The board isn't too coordinated. We can definitely bet this flop, get some value from a 10, some of the draws. Oh, but he just checks. I don't like this play. When you're the pre-flop raiser, you should be betting this board if you have ace king, any overpair, and that means you should also be betting this board when you flop a set. There are enough straight draws, overcards, and 1 pair hands that he can call us. We don't have to worry about him folding all the time. I would understand checking this board if it was 10-6-3 instead of 10-8-3, but on this board, I do think there are enough combinations that can call us. And now the board is getting very coordinated. There's a straight draw, a flush draw. There's potential for him to have a 2-pair hand, which is great for us. That means this could be a good time to raise, charge all those draws, and maybe if he has a hand like 10-9 or 8-9, he'll put a lot of money in the middle. But no, he just calls. It's not very often that you can say that ace on the river changes nothing, but I do believe that ace on the river changes nothing. If he had the best hand on the turn, he has the best hand now. I would assume if the middle position player checks, the button is going to go for some value. Let's see what happens. Oh, he puts them all in for 1,200. That's twice the pot. Wow, I'm not sure he has the best hand anymore. He calls and he shows Jack 7 for a turned gutter because the button checked, trying to trap. Well, the trap didn't work. He trapped himself and he lost a big pot. This is one of the reasons why you want to bet flops to charge people, not so that they fold, but so that they've paid a price time and time again that when they do hit this, you still make money in the long run. We're going to start with the $50 button straddle. Oh, make that 100. So this is a game that I host at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas, and one of the rules that I decided was to make straddles to be unlimited. You can straddle whatever you want up to your entire stack. There's no reason to limit the amount of straddles if you want to have a fun game, and that was our goal, so we allow unlimited straddles. Although this is another hand that I am not in, I guarantee you the next hand I do play. The big blind raises it up to $225 over the $100 button straddle. He gets a caller under the gun +1, and it folds around to the button. He has an option. He can call or raise. He decides to call. He wants to see a flop. We go 3 ways to the flop, almost a $700 pot. The flop is 10-6-4. This kind of reminds me of the flop I said I might slow play if I flopped a set. But in this hand, the big blind's just gonna bet $300. He was a pre-flop raiser. He wants to keep the aggression going, charge all the draws. There are a number of straight draws, including 7-9, 7-8, 8-5, 7-5, and 3-5. I noticed the 3-5 this time. Plus any 2 random diamonds. So he bets 300 and gets called. Now he's heads up, going to the turn. Hey, that's one of those cards that could be a gut shot draw that came in. Kind of a scary turn card. Let's see what the big blind wants to do. Looks like he's gathering his chips together, and he goes all in for 660. This guy's basically representing an overpair that just feels committed to the pot and has to put his money in the middle, which isn't a bad play. A hand like 7-9, 7-8 is only a pair with a straight draw. He beats any 10, and he beats pretty much most of the diamond draws if they haven't made 2 pairs somehow, such as 6-7. We should at least identify the nuts in this hand just in case the big blind raised with a hand that wasn't premium. So 8-9 would be the nut straight. The next biggest straight would be 8-5, and then the infamous 3-5. Those are the 3 straights he could have if he did raise with a non-premium hand. And as far as 2 pair, if he's raising with those hands that make a straight, he might be raising 6-7, 4-6, 10-7, who knows. So if he has a straight, he's just as likely to have 2 pair. And now the under the gun player has to decide what he's going to do. Is he up against an overpair? Is he up against 2 pair? I don't think 1 pair is good in this spot. Now it's decision time. He decides to call. The river's an ace. The big blind announces 2 pair and shows ace-7 for running 2 pair. Under the gun player says he had a 10, called him down light with 1 pair, and he got punished. I don't love that call on this board. I'm not sure what we beat other than ace-7, of course, but that was an interesting hand. Check out razorclothing.com. Alright, now it's time for me to play an interesting hand. This is 4-handed at the end of the night, which is why you'll see that I'm raising with King 7 suited. Not a hand I normally play, but if you're 4-handed and you're folding King 7 suited, you're just a nit. So I raise and we get 2 callers and we go to the flop. And we miss everything. I decided this was a board I didn't really want to c-bet on. Let's just check to the opponents, see what they do. We have 1 check, and now the button bets $75. And I'm going to do one of those things that all the nits in the comments are going to want to berate me for. Because I'm going to float this hand out of position, and here's why. I could turn a king or a 7 to possibly have the best hand, and if I turn a 4, 5, 9, or 10, those all give me a straight draw. So there's plenty of cards that could come to improve my equity in this hand. It's actually 22 cards out of the 52 that could come on the turn that would improve me, at least to a draw or a pair. If a card comes that improves my chances of winning, I could either lead out or check raise big. I have some options here. Especially when a king comes, holy moly. I decided to check here. When I hit this king, I think it's a good time to check. If I had turned any of the straight cards, or maybe even a 7, I probably would have let out. So the button bets 175, and we're definitely not folding now that we floated with King 7 and hit a king. So I call 175. Oh goodness, the river's another king. Now this doesn't really improve our hand strength unless you happen to have Jack 8 or 6-8 or some other 2 pair, but what this does do is change things. We're now going to want to lead this river so that he doesn't check back. So I lead 425, hoping he calls. He goes into the tank. He starts talking about what king can you have? You can't have this king, you can't have that king, and he's definitely perplexed because he can't put me on king 7 of spades, and he does call, and we win the pot. And for all the people that are going to call me a donkey, first of all, I don't care, and second of all, I don't play it this way every time. I just played it this way this time, and I'm showing you what I was thinking at the time. That's that. In this hand, we're going to play along with the cutoff. The hand starts with a button straddle of 25, the small blind and the big blind call 25, and the cutoff looks down at pocket aces. So he's either going to lose a lot or win a lot, because there's no in between. Cutoff raises to $100. I would actually make it a little bit bigger, 125 to 150, but 100 is okay. The button calls 100, the small blind calls 100, and the big blind folds. 3 ways to the flop. And just like that, he flops a set. Now this is one of those boards I might consider slow playing, mainly because you have everything locked up. It's hard for someone to have ace 3, ace X because you have 3 of the aces. The best chance you have is that somebody has a king and they may not even be happy calling with the ace on board, but the cutoff, he's an aggressive player, he's going to bet 150, he gets called by the small blind. Turns a deuce, probably doesn't help anyone. Since you bet the flop, I think you should bet the turn with aces. Just keep betting, hope this guy calls you down with a king, or maybe he does have the last ace. The small blind checks over to the cutoff, and now it's just about sizing. The cutoff bets 375. This is again an okay bet, but you bet 175 on the flop. I think you can actually go up to 400, 450 if you wanted to. Make it seem a little fishy, but 375 does get called. The river is the 3rd spade, which would really only help the small blind if you backed into a flush. And now he just bets all in. He puts the cutoff all in for $750. The cutoff has a set of aces, and unless this guy backdoored a flush, he has the best hand. The cutoff calls and the small blind shows king 5 for a straight. What the? If you like this vlog, please like and subscribe the video and check out my website, razorclothing.com.